And we're live.
All right. There we go. I think my hair has ever been better.
No, I think this is as good as it gets.
Yeah. My teeth are fantastic. Jesus. God,
That was the important part. Yeah.
Shut up.
James Harden has been traded from the Nets to the Sixers.
Man, he never lasts more than a year or two now. Everywhere he goes, right?
It's weird. I don't know what's going on there, but when you trade somebody to somebody in the same division, the guy was a problem.
You know what I call him? I call him the Beard.
The Beard, is that what you call it?
Yeah.
Did you invent that?
What? You're saying I didn't? Just go ahead. Hey, go ahead. Just keep trying to take it all away from me. Go ahead. You keep doing that. Hey, if that makes you feel like big man,
big man, like a big boy, putting on your big boy pants. All right, I'm ready when you are.
It is the Brad and Britt cast, and that's our last one for this week. And by the time we meet again next week, the Super Bowl will be over. It will be Valentine's Day. All kinds of things will have had. Now, so here's a question, and this actually, it doesn't actually get to the heart of, if you talk about stuff that's bad, do you, by definition, give it more oxygen and therefore make it more likely to happen? In other words, right now, floating out there is that the TB, the truckers' bullshit, I don't know what else to call it, is spreading. Of course, I'm sure it's spreading everywhere. It's probably spreading on Facebook. It's just spreading everywhere. And that the next prominent target, could be the Super Bowl, Los Angeles, over this weekend. And my first thought was, going back to September 11th, 2001, we had a Super Bowl a couple months later at the beginning of 2002, and everybody was nervous. Mm-hmm. Everybody was nervous. And we've had how many Super Bowls since then? Like 19 or 20 of them. And, they've all gone off relatively smoothly without a hitch. They've been in New York, they've been in Detroit, they've been in, all over the country, and they've been able to secure the sites, and there have been no problems. And I'm disregarding the pre-2001 era where the Super Bowl always was thought of as a terrorist target. What was that movie? Black Sunday? Black Sunday. What year was that made in?
Like
that made in the 80s?
I think it was late 70s even. I think that was back in the 70s when that movie was made.
Right. And what did they do in that to fuck up the Super Bowl? I can't even remember.
Black Sunday is...
Check that one out.
I'm looking at IMDb right now. Black Sunday is the powerful story of a Black September terrorist group attempting to blow up a Goodyear blimp, Brad. A Goodyear blimp hovering over the Super Bowl stadium with 80,000 people and the President of the United States in attendance. Ladies and gentlemen, your stars, Robert Shaw, Bruce Dern, and Martha Keller, directed by John Frankenheimer, who I believe was the man who gave you The Manchurian Candidate.
All right, so that was a fairly substantial. What year was that again?
I'm looking again to see what year this came out, and I can't see it right now. Give me a second. 1977, the year of our Lord, Brad.
All right.
I believe in January of 1977 at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California, the Oakland Raiders won their first world championship over the Minnesota Vikings by a score of 32-14.
All right, so almost 25 years before September 11, 2001,
right?
The thought was put on film by, that was a great cast and a great director.
It
You know
is.
what? That one might be worth looking at if you could find it now.
I'm
My
sure.
goodness,
It's
my
got to be
goodness.
streaming somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, we managed to secure, the most prominent national holiday of the year now, the Super Bowl. But this time around, that might become impossible because if trucks drive, trucks drive. And not only that, it would interrupt the normally wonderfully flowing traffic of the greater Los Angeles area around Inglewood that normally has no problems to begin with on a good day. Normally, LA traffic is just the best. It's just the best, right? Okay. So let's just project this out. Let's do a little game theory here. If
Right.
somehow, some way, truckers, under the guise of right-wing populist, Hitlerian, racist, Trumpy, bullshit, anti-vax, nobody's going to tell me what to do. Most of us are vaccinated, we truck drivers, but we don't care because ain't no bug going to tell us what to do. And we're going to show the world that every politician must bow down to taking off all restrictions, no attempt to even talk about the coronavirus anymore because it's gone, it's solved, I'm done with it, I'm out of here. And they ruin the soup, and the players can't get to the game. Somehow, some way, they fuck it up. What happens? What happens? Because there is a physical part of what occurs to put on a Super Bowl. A lot of things must be done right, and they're not virtual. They are real people doing real things.
Mm-hmm.
Do these people think that they would get sympathy from a bunch of folks in America? What would Ted Cruz say? Would Ted Cruz talk about their noble cause? Is this legitimate political discourse we're talking about by truckers?
I don't even want to think about. I don't want
I
to think about
know.
it. It's like
I
the worst thing
know.
ever. Like, you guys didn't say anything when they knelt their anthem, but now this is your problem. Blah blah. It's gonna be shit like that. It's just gonna be the dumbest shit of all time. And I don't know if they cause a headache or not. I know that I saw some of the packages for some, I think it was CBS, where they show the guys with the black helicopters flying around, and this is what we're doing, and we're looking for this, and we're trying to prevent this. But then, like you said, this pops up, and I don't know exactly what this means or how they're going to try to fuck things up. But they very well could. They're already the situation in Detroit you've seen is causing some real problems with a supply chain that's already stretched absolutely thin. They're going to have to shut down some production lines on various factories that make stuff for the automobile industry because they're not able to do it. You said like the nearest bridge that they can go to kind of circumvent all of this bullshit. It adds 3 hours to the trip. I mean, it's just a huge pain in the ass. And then I was reading that it wasn't even necessarily.
Right. What better way to demonstrate to the rest of the country and the world how concerned you are and caring you are and how freedom loving you are by helping to drive inflation even higher, to cause supply shortages to be exacerbated even more. You're going to show them, and that's so that certain people have the so-called right to not get vaccinated and continue to infect people in a pandemic that is not over with. It is not over. Not when 2,000 to 3,000 people are dying still every day. And I know it's a lagging indicator. It's been 4 weeks ago. No, it doesn't. Yes, but no. Okay. Till we get down to where it's double digits, under 100. I'll pick a number. Then they can start to say, yeah, I think we've beat, but even the last time it got down to that and it came back. And our country, the world, but our country is so lazy. We're so undisciplined. We can't for 1 second think, it might be a good idea for that extra margin of safety to go that extra mile. We can't discriminate. We can't discriminate and now use the information that we have that it's very clear that schools should be open and that kids in most situations don't need to have masks in schools. We can't separate that out from a worldwide shutdown of production of everything by truckers who think this is about freedom. We can't do it. Not possible. No,
Well, Tully brings up the salient point. These aren't even real truckers. It's a bunch of redneck anti-vaxxers with a pickup. You've seen that the Canadian trucking industry is like, these people are not connected with us. You do see obviously some very large tractor trailers, but you do see some rednecks and F-150s and Silverados that are also lined up because they thought it would be a fun party on that bridge going from Windsor into Detroit, right? You're seeing some people just join in. And again, I don't know what the point is. I don't know. They don't have an end game to this. It's just rage against the machine, right?
Yeah. And by the way, buddy, is an F-150 a truck? Huh?
It's a hell of a truck. It's a fantastic truck.
Right. I mean, this seems, just in the macro sense, like a complete anarchic breakdown of everything. And I guess it's all in service to make sure that Donald Trump can become the president and dictator of the United States. Doesn't it all just end up there?
Well,
I don't know. If Donald Trump was president, would there be truckers protesting? If he had stolen the election in the United States Constitution had been torn completely to shreds, and no one would none of it. And this is crazy. Yeah. If Donald Trump was, would there be no inflation? Would everything be fine? Britt, all the fucking Facebook shit that I read, everything. I went to the store the other day, and the price of chicken was 3 times what it was. Thanks, Biden.
Well, I'm still battling with people in my real life who are telling me about the free checks that people are getting, and that's why you can't go to Denny's at 3:00 in the morning anymore and stuff yourself with delicious pancakes. Is because Joe Biden is feeding people checks, and they just get checks and checks and checks, and that's why you have all the. It's just, I mean, the fight against all that shit, particularly as you know, that last year that Trump was in office was just such a heavenly time. Everything's rolling along really well.
I think you up the game here on lag time.
Yeah.
Particularly like from getting coronavirus to being in the hospital to dying to people still saying that folks are still sitting back getting free checks. In case anybody hasn't noticed, that's the one area that stopped in September or October for just about everybody. And number 2, the employment figures, everything else may suck. You can decide that, but you cannot argue with where the labor market is and the ability of people to raise their wages. If you think that's the big contributor to inflation only, and you think that's a bad thing, well, let's go back to when America was great, when people at the bottom made shit and had no bargaining power to make shit plus anything. Yeah, that was great.
Those were the good old Trump days.
Those were the good old Trump days. Yeah, right.
Those are the good old Trump days.
So this is a big balancing act. It's a big balancing act. It's very hard for any one person, let alone groups of people or economists, to agree on how you climb out of this. But it isn't going to be helped. Let's put it this way. It isn't going to be helped by groups of anarchists around the world throwing more sand into the gears of economic activity. And if I had one recommendation for Joe Biden right now and the administration, I would get rid of just about every Trump tariff that was there. Because when Trump did the tariffs, particularly, let's just pick a group. Let's pick the farmers, okay?
Yeah.
Because, Trump threw all this money at the farmers. Remember that?
Yeah, I do remember.
Right. And
why was that necessary? Why was it necessary for him to throw money at the farmers?
Because they were sucking wind.
Because they were sucking wind. He put tariffs on. He put tariffs on shit that was going overseas. That's why he put the tariff on our products that were going overseas. Therefore, demand goes down. Therefore, you're kind of in trouble. and therefore you got to kind of bail out the farmers with some tariffs, but it never equals out. They still didn't get back the wind in their sails.
No. And, again, there's no easy answer, but, we do have a worldwide economy. We're not going to be able to produce everything we buy and eat and drive and live in the United States in the next 3 years if we just roll up our sleeves and decide we're going to shut ourselves off from the world. It doesn't work that way. And I would just remove as many tariffs as makes sense. I remove as many as.
That's another one of those things where it takes a while to unwind. You can't unilaterally do it, and then you have to negotiate and do the dance. It's a very complicated.
Oh, I don't think so. I think that's almost a presidential power.
It takes a while for it to unwind.
You think Trump asked anybody when he put tariffs on?
No,
we need to have legislation.
No,
there was no legislation.
No, but that was the problem with him is he just does shit and he doesn't realize the consequences to unwind that is a very complicated situation. If you do it, then the other countries that have slapped the tariffs on you go, I don't know. I think we're going to just keep the tariffs on you. Yeah. So that takes diplomacy, negotiation. It's not an easy fix.
Britt, if I were Joe Biden, I would take all those copies of the tariff agreements, I would rip them up and flush them down the White House toilets. That's what I would do. I would flush them down the White House toilets so that we never saw them again. We got to talk about it. There's no way we can't. We can avoid talking about something that is, again, for the 4 millionth time. Of course, it's too stupid to talk about, but it's very important because between Trump elevating there's a video, there's a tweet, there's something where Trump is a hypocrite and lied about something in the past that he then does 100 times worse. It's this one because there's dozens of appearances by Trump during the campaign of 2016 where he pounded Hillary Clinton for erasing where the emails. One of his big speeches was in Raleigh, where he went after Hillary Clinton, destroying records. If I were in her position, I would save everything. I mean, it's everywhere. You could not be more adamant than Donald Trump was in understanding the sacred nature of the Presidential Records Act, which applies to everybody in the government at that level, including like the Secretary of State. Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. So Trump accused her, and we got it boiled down to the 3-word phrase, of course, but her emails, right? Mm-hmm. And that helped get him elected president. So here we are, and we're a year past Trump being out of office, and the news is irrefutable, I think. You know how it's irrefutable? Because Trump's denied it. Is there anything that Trump has denied that hasn't turned out to be true? Right. Can you name one thing where a story like this comes out that he was furiously ripping shit up and then flushed it down the toilet? I mean, we got to go back to what we've been saying for a week now. Why the fuck did he have a paper shredder? You don't flush it down the toilet. But okay. It's not toilet paper. Toilet paper is designed to break up so you can flush it down the toilet. Regular paper doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
But you must be a drug dealer. You must be a mafia boss, because it sounds exactly like what happens when the cops do a no-knock entrance into your apartment and you live in, let's pick a stereotype place where this might happen, the South Bronx. And they know that you're a high-level drug dealer, and they know you've got the shit, and you run into the bathroom and try to flush it down the toilet as fast as you can. Although I never hear about that clogging up the toilet. You know what? Cocaine probably goes down the toilet pretty easy. It's powder. You can get rid of it fast.
So you have seen Goodfellas, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Karen, why did you do that? Karen. Right. And he gets out of prison, and the cocaine's not there. It can't pay for anything because Karen flushed it down the toilet. That's exactly what happened to Ray Liotta.
Right. So to think that you would be getting rid of documents that way is just it takes it to a new level. I mean, is there a way? Look, I understand when Nixon was involved with Watergate, the people who did the Watergate burglary were known as the plumbers. You see, it all comes back around.
He's such a student of history. He's such a student of history, Donald Trump is.
If you have White House plumbers always available to do your dirty work for you, well, you can pull off a scandal here and there. But he didn't. And I apologize for T-Berry barking, but we've got guys working outside.
The guys are going, people are doing things. It's not his normal clogging of the toilet, which was the residue of all the fast food that he was eating. This was trying to flush printer paper, now he's denying this, like you said, which means that it's 100% true. Former President Trump, just this day, denying a claim that he flushed documents down a White House toilet and he was told he was under no obligation to return over his administration's records, which flies in the face of presidential records law. Also, another fake story that I flushed papers and documents down a White House toilet is categorically untrue and simply made up by a reporter in order to get publicity for a mostly fictitious book, Trump said in a statement released by his Save America PAC. After Axios reported this is going to be part of Maggie Haberman's new book, which is called Confidence Man. This is Maggie Haberman, who has been probably the best reporter covering Trump for 6 years now.
Try 20. She was reporting on him back when she worked the city beat at the New York Post. Nobody is better sourced on Trump than her. So who are you going to believe, the reporter or Trump on this? See, this just in and of itself should be an automatic ticket that gets punched, and the Justice Department should be investigating. This isn't up to the archivists to handle this. This is a violation of the law. Mm-hmm. But like everything else, and we're sorry to repeat ourselves so many times, it's very clear that Trump, as a skilled mob boss, very often knows just how far to go to get done what he wants done, and then gum up the investigation and the information that is discovered about the crime that he has committed. I mean, that's what he does. That's what he's all about. And is he going to pay any kind of price for this? I got about 5,000 other things I want him to pay a price for. I'll put this on the list, but you can't ever say, well, it doesn't matter. It's not a big deal because he's done so many other things. No, they're all big deals. They're all big deals because if anybody else had done one of those big deals, their ass would be on the griddle. So
it would be all over. But as you know, and they've talked about the prosecution of this, the archives found possibly classified material in boxes returned by Trump. This is stuff that they just bagged up, took down to Mar-a-Lago, and eventually he and his lawyers had a negotiation. They sent it back, and they found, oh my God, there's classified material. I've seen the articles on this, and Merrick Garland, again, is in a very difficult position because I truly believe he is trying to take some of the bullshit politics that Donald Trump injected into the Department of Justice out of it. And he doesn't want to just use the Department of Justice to necessarily smack around Donald Trump. And it was something that will be seen as completely political, even though it's completely deserved because the guy looks like he's broken the law. So Merrick Garland, who gets just a ration of shit from a lot of people, mostly on the left, but a lot of folks on the right as well, he's in a tough position as far as investigating this stuff. He's got to do his due diligence. He's got to look out on it, but he doesn't want to just have it seen, just as Donald Trump had his Department of Justice, as a whooping stick for his political enemies. Merrick Garland's trying to get away from that, right?
I got an idea. Here.
Yeah.
I think that, and again, we're very impatient, right? I mean, we're like 6 years of impatience.
Of course.
Okay. And at some level, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and there'll be hell to pay on the other side of all this. That Judge Garland, who was a federal judge for 20 years, prosecuted the Timothy McVeigh Oklahoma City bombing. He knows what he's doing. It's very hard for those of us who are just civilians, or even some lawyers, to have the patience to say he knows what he's doing, and when he does drop the anvil on top of Trump's head, it's going to be a big one. It's going to be a complete one. It's going to be a detailed one. It's not going to leave any pebble, stone, rock, or boulder unturned. It's hard to sit back and see all these revelations come in that are discovered by the media, the press, basically the New York Times and the Washington Post. Shouldn't the Justice Department have found these things out before it makes the pages of the New York Times or the Washington Post? That's another question that'll have to be answered. But when he does, and I think he will, and I think they will, and I know it's just the beginning of February, the middle of February, but we still have a few more months. And when it comes out, my recommendation, and this is just cheap theater, I think that the indictment, the mass document that will be the indictment, should at first, the first part of it, the first couple thousand words, should be written with the same syntax as the Declaration of Independence. Because if you remember the Declaration of Independence, it listed all of the grievances against the king. Remember?
I do.
It's there. And I think that you should get some linguists, some people who are really well schooled in writing, to write it just like that. Just like that. It'd be delightful. And maybe, of course, the Justice Department won't do that, but that should be an assignment for someone. Maybe a loser like me. Maybe I'll sit around and try to do that over the weekend if I have some time. And of course, I'm spiffing up our house, Britt, so that when you and the usual gang of idiots are here for the Super Bowl, the place looks presentable. So I might not have time to rewrite the Declaration of Independence. A small job at any point. But that's what I want to see. I want to see it so buttoned up. I want to see it perfect. I want to see there be no defense for this guy. None. I don't want any holes, any cracks in the walls for him to escape. And I'm going to just sit back and have a little faith on this right now. Because even though it is rather shocking sometimes to see revelations come out first in the newspapers and on CNN about things that Trump has done, I just have a feeling they got a lot of investigators at the Justice Department who've been looking at a lot of these things, and they're compiling it. They're getting it right, because you are going up against a combination of Hitler and Al Capone and
right.
John Gotti.
Right.
I mean, you're going up against Trump. You want a compliment? You're the best criminal crook of our lifetime. You may not be Hitler, but you're the most destructive person to the planet since Hitler. How about that? How about that?
I know, but you hear and I understand people's frustrations. I'm frustrated too. I wish Merrick Garland would just come out there, fistful of indictments in front of everybody, and somebody would do a perp walk, but that's not the kind of guy that he is. And I think you're right. I think he's a very, very thorough individual. You know that when this shit finally comes down, he's going to have all the T's crossed, all the I's dotted. He's going to have his ducks in a row, and it's not going to happen in a timetable. We're not ordering a Big Mac. You don't just circle around to the window and grab it. I wish that's the way it was. I wish it was very easy. Donald Trump, you did this, you're indicted. Now do the perp walk. Now you're guilty. Now go to jail. That's not the process. It takes a while. And you get a lot of people from the left. You get the Keith Olbermann saying, oh, Merrick Garland should be fired. Now, all this shit happens. Every couple of days, somebody on the left wants Merrick Garland to be fired. He's not doing enough. He's not doing it quickly enough. But I sincerely believe he's trying to do the right thing for the country. I think he's trying to weed all of the shit out of the Department of Justice that Donald Trump threw in there. And it takes some time to get all of this stuff going. And I believe, the prosecution of all these guys on January the 6th, that takes a tremendous amount of manpower and a tremendous amount of documentation, all of those things. So I'm with you. I think he's going to do the right thing. And none of this happens, quickly. That's the problem, and that's the frustration that you and I and a lot of people share. But I think eventually when this all comes down, he's going to be the guy. He's going to be the guy that thoroughly gets the job done. At least I hope so, for sure.
Well, but the sort of Damocles hanging over everybody's head is the election.
Yeah.
And even though it is true that if the Republicans were to take control, particularly of the House of Representatives, that of course they would disband the January 6th committee, but that would not end. That wouldn't end what the Justice Department is doing.
No.
Fortunately, there isn't a midterm election to change the cabinet makeup. The president still has the right to have cabinet members of his choosing these last 3 years, right? That won't change. They're just they do have that time limit on them there. But I think enough will have been gathered that it really won't be relevant who is running the Congress at that point. Everything will have been investigated sufficiently to gather enough evidence. But and since we're playing this, what's going to happen in the future kind of game here, which we know nothing about, but that allows us to speculate and be as wacky as we want. Republicans have already promised. They have promised that there are going to be so many investigations that Joe Biden is going to be impeached, that you going to rue the day, Democrats, that you did anything these 2 years.
Are we hearing much about Hunter Biden still going to jail and stuff?
Oh,
that
is not even a question. Oh, we're going to get to the bottom of that. That's what it's all about. And if Joe Biden doesn't resign over that, then we'll have to impeach him. Right? Okay, so that's where it's going to go. So if you have a headache just thinking about what that will be like, where the media will go, oh, well, all the arguments that blah, blah, blah make, now they're making it. Everything's equal. It's the same, right? It's the same problem, which, of course, it's not, because Joe Biden is not Donald Trump. No one has ever been Donald Trump in the history of the United States. No president has ever organized a coup against the very government that he supposedly wants to lead in a democracy after a free and fair election that he decisively lost. That's never happened. That has nothing to do with Joe Biden right now. And is it going to get worse? Of course it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better. And by the way, this will be Biden's fault because, as you know, he promised unity. He promised he would bring us together, and he broke that promise.
And he did. The reason that you came to this podcast today, the big story of the day yesterday, started when Troy Nehls, N-E-H-L-S, Brad, he represents the 22nd district of the great state of Texas. That is suburban Houston to the southwest side, I believe. He started a Twitter screed saying that the Capitol Police, Brad, had invaded his office and they had taken pictures and they were caught red-handed, and he's not going to take it. By the way, if you followed this story, apparently this all happened on November the 20th, but a few months later, he's going to get pissed off about it and go on some sort of Twitter rant about how his rights were violated. And this is terrible. And he can't believe that Nancy Pelosi is spying on his ass. The Capitol Police have punched back against Mr. Congressman Nehls' claim, saying it is their policy that when you find an open door in a congressman's office, you go in and check out what's happening, especially after hours, because, hey, somebody could be fucking in there. So they went in there, they checked it out, which is their normal policy of doing when you find. In fact, that happens in a lot of places when there's an unsecured door, maybe at your city government office, and there's a cop that's going around there patrolling. If he sees an open door, he'll go in and see if something's happening in there. So the Capitol Police have punched back against this. Congressman Nehls was later talking about this. And he said, look, I support the Capitol Police, but this was unfair. And they took pictures of this whiteboard in my office, and it's very, 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 very odd. So Marjorie Taylor Greene from Cedartown, Georgia, goes on the One America News Network, and she rails against, of course, Nancy Pelosi's gazpacho police. You've seen the story by now. Gazpacho police are now spying on Republican members of Congress. I hope you've seen the video, because her mispronunciation of Gestapo, she's so confident, and so as she very deliberately pronounces the word gazpacho, to the idiot anchor. I can't remember who the asshole's name is for One American News. When she very deliberately, it's not like halfway, oh, did she say gazpacho? No, she very clearly and very proudly over enunciates the word gazpacho, trying to say Gestapo. And she is immediately dragged, as the kids say, across social media, and still does to this day. This is one of those things that will follow her to her grave. And it really should, because it's just that fantastic. Don't you agree that this is a wonderful, wonderful story?
Well, it is, but it isn't, because there are people who support her.
Sure.
She is now a very important part of the Republican Party, not because she does anything, not because she has any ideas, not because she makes anybody's lives better, not because she makes the lives of her constituents better, but because she knows how to mouth off and get on TV and get people reacting to her. And again, at one level, this is horrible to say, we're getting what we deserve in this country.
Yeah.
People are getting elected all over this country. People are now running for office who were in Washington on January 6th. They're there. It's the termite confederacy. It's there. It's boring in. And she's already inside. And again, if the Congress changes hands in a few months, by 2023, Kevin McCarthy has already promised that she will be brought back. She will be rehabilitated. She will get all kinds of committee assignments again, like she used to. And who are the other ones that got tossed? It wasn't just her. There are a couple of them, Boebert and they're going to be brought back. So we're doing this. This is a self-inflicted wound by America, putting people like this in positions of authority. And now that we have a runaway media complex that just promotes these people with no examination of who and what they are, just touts them as heroes. And in fact, I haven't looked yet. I haven't checked this. I would assume that the gazpacho story, which of course got heavy play in the parts of the world that we inhabit, because it's funny and it's her being an idiot.
It is.
Did Fox completely ignore this, or did they do it from the point of liberals melt down over mispronunciation? Liberals who normally sip gazpacho on the coasts at their expensive restaurants feel invaded by, how did they spin it if they talked about it at all? Or would they ignore it because, of course, it makes one of their heroes look stupid? Okay. I haven't checked yet. I haven't checked that one yet.
If I'm going by their website, this story never happened.
Okay.
It never existed, and she never did it.
Right. Are you scrolling down? Are you looking like to the fit? Okay. If you get to like story number 25 or 30 or 4 and it ain't there, then it ain't there. Right.
Let me go through your top story. You remember how the Onion would do the thing with the man on the street thing, and they would have the same 3 people and ask them a stupid question?
Yeah.
They've got one of those where they have, and it looks like the same 3 dumbasses from the Onion. They're asking them about teaching race to school kids. Okay, here's the stories that on foxnews.com that they want their viewers and their folks to know about. Number 1 is a convoy. We got us a great big convoy. Ain't it a beautiful sight? That's right at the top of the page, right? Independent journalist debunks Trudeau and liberal media's freedom convoy narrative, Brad. They're lying about the freedom convoy. Right below that, locals outraged as homeless occupy community while city does nothing. And then Deep Blue State wants to teach race to school kids. Here's what parents think. Beyond that, you've got suspect flees after attempting sickening crime in lawless liberal city. You'll be surprised to know that the screenshot of that one shows a black man, Brad, to the Fox News audience. You'll be shocked to know that they're highlighting that one. And school under fire after teachers subject middle schoolers to bizarre sex lesson. That's right. Olives for oral sex. These are the top 5 stories at foxnews.com. Marjorie Taylor Greene does not make the cut, Brad.
No gazpacho. By the way, while you were speaking, I wanted to check, since the most famous piece of music from the earlier trucker era of the 70s was Convoy by C.W. McCall. C.W. McCall is still alive. His real name is William Dale Fries Jr. He is 93. He is 93 years old. God bless him. Holy shit. He's in the Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Convoy was in Grand Theft Auto 5 for you players.
Looking at that. And
Rolling Stone ranked Convoy number 98 on their list of 100 greatest country songs. Not bad. Not bad. I'm surprised there isn't a clumsy attempted remake.
Yeah.
By Greg Gutfeld or some asshole like that on Fox. I'm surprised they haven't tried to do that yet.
The guy who wrote some of the music for C.W. McCall was a guy named Chip Davis out of Omaha, Nebraska. Now, do you know who Chip Davis is?
Is he related to Al Davis and Mark Davis of the Oakland Raiders, LA Raiders, and Las Vegas Raiders?
Chip Davis is a guy who was involved in that. And he also, like I said, he was involved in the C.W. McCall project, did very well with that. He went on many years later, and he's really the brains and the creative and the intellectual property creator of Mannheim Steamroller.
Ah. Oh, okay.
So he's a very
I recognize the name now that you say it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, Chip, and of course the Mannheim Steamroller Christmas music sold millions and millions, mainly because of Rush Limbaugh. Because Rush Limbaugh found them and nobody else found them, and he was the guy, right, Brad? That was another one of those things where Rush discovered them, he made them and everything.
Have we crossed the 1-year Rush death anniversary yet?
It is
what
coming
day
up,
was
Brad.
it?
February the 17th, Brad. So we are 1 week away. It has been 51 weeks since we lost the great Rush Hudson Limbaugh III.
So can you book right now? Book Little Rush. Now we might want to have him on, all 4 days next week.
Oh God,
it's going to be something. It's going to be something to celebrate because if, for instance, they fuck up the Super Bowl, now Little Rush is a big football fan. He's a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and of course, the Steelers, the only team that had a black head coach until 2 days ago, right? They're the only ones. I was like, what I thought was outrageous during the whole NFL, it's reporting of this. It was only black head coaches like Ron Rivera, who's Hispanic. He didn't count as not white.
You don't count. Doesn't count.
He doesn't count at all. Right. Okay. I'm just asking the questions. I'm just asking the questions.
Have you seen some of the coverage of this and some of the sports media about some of the debating and all the stuff about the merits of the Flores lawsuit? I mean, it really is. It makes you. I am that much more impressed with Brian Flores for attacking this and making this his life's mission, because he's going to go through just a ration of shit for it, and his career is over.
It looks to me like he's already won.
Yeah,
it looks to me like he's already won, because, and I didn't see the whole thing, but if you just see the minute and a half or 2 minutes of Roger Goodell just sweating like a pig, trying to wiggle out of one of his bullshit answers, and remember, Roger Goodell, he's probably one of the 5 or 6 highest paid corporate executives in the country, right? Doesn't he make $50 million a year?
Makes a lot of money.
Like it's beyond anything.
Right.
But you only hear from him when he's absolutely forced with a can opener to come out from underneath, right? It's only in the worst circumstances that they hear. And then he does the once a year week of the Super Bowl update where he just has to show up. It's like talking to the president right before the Super Bowl. You're going to do it now. You got to do it.
Widely
so there he was. There he was saying, "We're not going to permit any discrimination in this league. Really, we're not going to. But you have for 100 years.
Too late.
But now you've decided to stamp it out. Come on."
Widely reported his compensation of $64 million a year.
64, yeah,
$64 million.
And by the way, this is my last suggestion of the day. Then we're done. If I were a big corporate executive right now, making that kind of money, or I think Kevin Johnson, who's the CEO of Starbucks, which hasn't exactly been burning up the track in the last year. They've had their problems, they have supply chain problems, a China problem, all kinds of problems. Starbucks. And they've been raising their prices, of course. And so what happens the other day? It's announced that Kevin Johnson is getting himself a raise. I don't know whether it's from 24 million to 27 or whatever.
He made, according to what I'm seeing, he made 20 and a half last year.
20 and a half, but he's getting a raise.
Yeah.
He's getting a raise. If I were one of these people, you know what I'd do? I would cut my salary right now. Now, albeit if he cut his salary from 20 million to 15 million, I understand he'd have to sell the cars. Kids would have to come out of college.
That's the worst.
All those kind of things. I understand it would be a great imposition on him because, we all have our budgets. No. As a symbol of understanding that I do get it. I do get that everybody doesn't make the kind of money that I do. And I do get that inflation is a function of people getting higher wages, in some cases, who don't deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
I would do that. That'd be the greatest. I think it would be a great PR move.
It would be.
I think it would be the equivalent of when a CEO of a company that maybe a little bit beleaguered, not doing so well, but they're really a good company. They make a good product, but the stock's been beaten up or whatever. They go out and they purchase $5 million worth of their own stock. And that always says a lot, because that says the guy's willing to put his own money behind the business, and he thinks there's a brighter future. I think this is another example of something like that, that you make sure that it's affecting you, that you have faith, and that you can live within some boundaries that the average person wouldn't mind living in. I wouldn't mind surviving on 15 million instead of the 20 million. And I don't understand why we're not getting that kind of at least attempted grand gesture from some people in this country. It would instead of just everybody buckling up and saying, I'm going to get mine, I want more, I'm going to raise my prices.
Well, maybe it
doesn't matter.
Some companies that pretend to care about their employees don't give a shit about their employees as much. Maybe your Starbucks, your Costco's, and maybe.
Those, by the way, those are the good companies. They are the good ones, and that's why I think it's disappointing at this moment to see a CEO of a Starbucks do that, because we had more bad inflation numbers come out on Thursday morning, and we're certainly in for a couple more months of this. And by the way, my investment recommendation: pick up some I bonds if you can, because they're the inflation bonds. They're paying over 7% right now, and they readjust the rate, I believe, in April. Yeah. And unless you think that inflation's going back down in the next 6 weeks, that 7%, it could be higher. It may go up higher. You got to keep them at least for a year.
Yeah, it's easy to buy those too. You can buy
they're easy to buy.
Very easy. You don't even need Robinhood for that, Brad.
Yeah, Treasury. I think it's Treasury.gov. Treasury.gov. Me and the wife bought some the other day, and we put the rest in Ethereum. What do you think? Does that work for you? We're rolling it all into the Ethereum thing.
You're looking forward to all the crypto commercials during the Super Bowl, are you?
Now, see, that's going to be, in retrospect, that's going to be a leading indicator of maybe peak crypto. Because how many times during the Super Bowl, when there is a fad and it gets jumped on, and you see several commercials in the category, and we'd have to go back over the 50 some years of Super Bowl, but it's happened before, when something is just hot as shit, and suddenly companies out of nowhere appear, and then 5 years later they're gone. They don't even exist anymore. There's a lot of examples of that, none of which I have on the tip of my finger, but the crypto thing, that really could be exhibit A here. We'll see. Okay. All right. Well, have a good weekend, and I'll see you on Sunday. What are you bringing? There?
Lots of wings. A bunch of wings. It's going to be delicious.
Did you steal them off the back of a truck? You can't get them.
They're
so expensive.